Hello, everybody in the stream. Thanks for coming, showing up. We're going to get started with the Python Bytes episode. Hello, and welcome to Python Bytes, where we deliver Python news and headlines directly to your earbuds. This is episode 253, recorded October 6th, 2021. I'm Brian Ocken.
I'm Michael Kennedy.
And we've got with us
Yael. Yael, yes, this is me.
So welcome. Hey, before we jump into some of our topics, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, of course. First of all, I'm super excited to be here. A little bit nervous because it's my first podcast ever. And I'm very happy to be on Python Bytes. It's a podcast I've been listening to, I think, for the last 5 years. About the same time I got into Python. So right now I started recently, a month ago, I started working at a new company, cybersecurity company called Cycognito. They're doing some cool stuff, automated network perimeter security for Fortune 500 companies. Very interesting approach. What I do there is I'm infrastructure and internal tools developer in Python, of course. And I've been doing Python for the last 6 years as a developer, as a backend developer, as an automation developer. I actually started my career as a QA engineer. I didn't have any coding background, so I kind of learned Python on the job, starting from little scripts and snippets, and then I got into pytest and automation. And at some point, I just switched to full-time developer, but still, testing is something very precious to me. I'm very invested in it. So, yeah,
it's kind of important to me too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, awesome.
I know. I had a feeling. Thank you.
Well, Michael, let's kick it off with some awesomeness.
Yeah, I love awesome things. So let's kick it off with awesome-htmx. So we've covered many awesome lists, and one of the hottest technologies in the Python space these days, and at least with the web, is over at htmx.org. A really cool way to basically create apps that you would normally create with Vue or React, but just do it all in Python and mostly on the server, which is really cool. So let's see, make sure I get the name right here. Ragashargar, probably messed it up, sorry, but put together this list. Thank you for keeping track of all the things that are awesome that have to do with HTMX. So if you look down here, there's like blog posts, tools, videos, examples. And what's kind of nice about it is it's not just, here's a Python list of using this framework, but it's this framework in a lot of different situations that might be useful to people. So for example, if you want to know how to use it in Django, there's an example, rather a blog post for that. There's one for using Tailwind with Flask. There's one for doing it with somewhere in here, I don't see it yet, but there's a Ruby on Rails one. There's plugins for HTMS, like so if you do Craft, which is a CMS, there's Django integration, Rails integration, all kinds of stuff. And there's videos. Check out number 3 here, Python Bytes, HTMX, dynamic and live HTML without JavaScript. That's our YouTube live stream, and we had, I think that was Hannah Stepnick who was on with us on that episode. And so there's some videos you can check out about it. There's also the Talk Python episode where I interviewed Carson Gross, the creator. So they're including our stuff, which is very much appreciated. But then also a bunch of examples for like Node.js and ASP.NET and, oh my gosh, a Lisp. Lisp is in there, but yeah, like plenty of Python ones as well. Yeah.
This is cool. And yeah, I actually gave some try using HTMX. I don't do a lot of front. Really nice to get rid of some ad hoc JavaScript stuff I did.
It works so well, doesn't it? Oh.
Yeah, and I really don't enjoy doing JavaScript because I'm not a front-end developer, but sometimes I need to provide some kind of a UI interface, and then it requires Java and then JavaScript, and then
Yeah.
I usually just take some snippets from Stack Overflow and throw it in there. And
think I need.
when I tried HTMX, it was so much cleaner to understand what's going on there. Very, very nice.
I think I need a sticker for my laptop that says I really don't enjoy using JavaScript.
So one thing I would like to throw out there that people, when I'm doing a talk in San Francisco and people heard the title, which is something like, interactive Python web apps hold the JavaScript, something like that. And they're like, oh, why are you always hating on JavaScript? I don't think that this is so much about hating on JavaScript. If you want to do JavaScript, knock yourself out. You can like a lot of these examples are Node.js and Express using HTMX. But the three of us on this call, we're not like, I can't wait to run out and write stuff that runs on Node. We'd much rather go write stuff that runs on Python. So what this lets us do is still use like Python code on the server, but then it just behaves as if it was running on the front end. It's super smooth, just like Yael said. Like it really cleans things up and makes it simple.
Yeah,
so here's a bunch of awesome
JavaScript.
stuff.
There's a bunch of other languages I don't want to work in either.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, there's not a whole lot more to add to this, but it's nice when these emerging technologies are coming along to get some help and examples and other resources. So thanks, Raj, for putting together this awesome list.
Yeah. Well, I can't believe I got this topic. You guys, yeah, anyway. Python 3.10,
Wow.
So excited. It came out 2 days ago. I'm loving it. I've switched. I'm using it at work. I'm using it at home, and it's not like it's new. I mean, one of the things, there was an article. Okay, I'll just go through a few topics. One, the logo's awesome. The 3.10 launch logo, super cool.
Yeah, I love it.
I want a sticker like that. There's a couple of videos that I think are good to at least know about. There's the launch party that started off with some awesome hats. They basically actually walked through the entire launch process of making 3.10 live and on camera. It's 3 hours long though. I only watched a little bit, but great hats.
This is cool. Yeah. So this is by the people who are actually releasing. It's not a party celebrating the launch. It's the actual launch.
Yeah, the actual launch. Which
right. That's awesome.
Neat. But JetBrains hosted, I think that was a pre-recorded thing, but there was a What's New in Python 3.10 video that this is more consumable at 33 minutes. I watched this while it was live, or while it was being broadcast at first, a couple days ago, and it's really interesting. This one's really great. I thought I knew everything that was coming in 3.10. The thing that I really love about this video is there's Lucas Langa and I can't remember, somebody else talked about. Do you know who the other person was that was talking?
Sebastian Ramirez and Brant Boucher.
Okay. And Lucas talked about some of the details on. Well, a couple of them are talking about the. I'm getting this wrong. What's the thing? The structural pattern matching. That's it.
Yes.
Super
switch.
Yeah. So is structural pattern matching? It's really cool. I haven't come up with a reason to use it yet. But give me time. But there was a discussion of why a big discussion on this, which was neat. It was a kind of a tutorial right there. And then also a discussion of why black doesn't work for it yet. So that was the odd takeaway that I wasn't expecting, is if you're really addicted to black, you can't use structural pattern matching and black together right now. They will catch up, but they have two different parsers for Python, and getting them all cut up will be it'll take a little time. So be patient.
Nice. Yeah, this is big news.
That's huge. But I guess if you want to use the if you still want to use black, you just need to just do formatting off on the block when you use pattern matching. So
you actually have to put it in a different file because you can't. The format off doesn't work in the file.
oh, really?
I tried that
and it didn't work. Interesting.
Didn't work. So.
Oh, that's a bummer. Okay.
But all the other features of 3.10 seem to work fine. So it's good.
Yeah, very nice. Some of the things that jump out that are exciting for me is X pipe Y versus rather than X, union of X comma Y or optional of X versus X comma or X pipe none. Those are nice. The additional type information and better error messages. Those are the things that I'm looking forward to. Except for I'm not really looking forward to errors. I generally don't like that. But once you're there, I prefer better error messages.
I think everybody teaching Python is going to love the error messages. So.
Oh, the error messages are 2 days ago. I was refactoring some code and I had some, a bit complex expression. It was like do some asserting and so another parenthesis, and I guess I missed something. And then I had this error, like expression is expected, and I'm like, what expression? It's all right there. And I wasted literally like about 3 minutes figuring out what expression it's missing, and eventually it ended up like I missed some curly brackets, and I really pattern matching is great. The type hinting is awesome, but those specific like little things are, I don't know, I think it's like really bumps your dev experience. So
yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
Speaking of better error messages and stuff, I'm planning on just integrating a rich, like the trace back stuff and all those kinds of things just into all my apps because it's just better. And it's one line of code at the top. So very nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. All right. Good one, Brian. All right, Yael, you're up with the next one.
Yeah. So it's a tool I stumbled upon a while ago when I was looking for some kind of a solution for bundling all my tools under one umbrella. So we have like large code bases. We use microservices, so that we have a lot of repositories. And of course, we would like to use some linking, Python style. And then we added another package because we found it pretty useful called Vulture that finds some unused code and points it out that maybe it should be removed or refactored, which Vulture is quite cool.
That is a fantastic name for that length feature.
Yeah.
It goes and finds dead code. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty
sorry,
cool.
Karen. I love the name.
Yeah, that's one of the latest additions. And then, because we deal with some security and vulnerabilities, we decided also to add bandits to the whole party. Those are really awesome tools, but we started first of all in every configuration, like linter has its own rules, Python style. You want to ignore some stuff. Well, it's kind of a requires customization. So we ended up having like 4 different customization profile files for each tool. And that's okay. I mean, once you've done it, it's okay. But then people started to get really frustrated with their CIs because it became a bit slow because of the sequential. And even more so, they become a bit frustrated with all the different outputs. So let's say you have issues in PyLint, and then you have problems with bytecode style. And first, we just started failing. Once you have a failure in PyLint, you don't proceed. So you fix PyLint, and then okay, yay! But then you have errors in bytecode style, so on and so on. So it was really frustrating. So we said, okay, it fails, but let's continue, and then just split all the errors done. but still people had some issues starting reading the outputs because it's different format, and they're like, okay, what does it want from me? What do I do? And and then the whole thing, the whole experience is, okay, I finish working here, I just wanna post it and get a review in it, but then I get stuck in this limbo fixing all this kind of stuff. So we started thinking what can improve the user and the dev experience, so people won't get frustrated with the CI, because once people frustrated with CI, they start disabling features, and that's something that we didn't want.
Then your CI starts to lose all its value and everything, right?
Exactly. So I kind of stumbled on Prospector, and I say stumble because it was always there. It's actually brought by PyCQA, the same guys, the same organization that are responsible for PyLint and for PyCode but somehow I missed the whole bundle thing that's called Prospector. I guess it's a bit less popular. So we started using it. It bundled all our analysis tools together in one run and in one unified output. So it's much easier when you have the output just to read it and understand what's going on. And more than that, bonuses, we discovered some more tools that it provides that we weren't even familiar with, such as McCabe complexity analysis, which points out some kind of like in case you have very big function, nested conditions and stuff.
Nice. Is that like cyclomatic complexity and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So there's actually a link there inside that takes you to Wikipedia and explains how all those things are calculated. But it's pretty nice. You cannot always follow its rules because sometimes, you have a complex function, it's in legacy code, and you don't necessarily want to mess with it. But it's nice to have this information, or even to put it in backlog. So that's something we discovered. There's also Pyroma if you developing, or if you have like some missing, let's say, contributor RST, or so it will point out all the stuff there. You have the dodgy package that points out if you have like some sensitive data such as passwords or like AWS keys or some things you not necessarily want to include in your code base. So a lot of goodies that come with this Prospector that actually bundles a lot of analysis tools, which is cool, but our experience, because it's one output and one configuration, which means instead of having like a configuration file for each of the tools, you have only one to rule them all. And more than that, you have profiles, which means like, let's say you have at some point you would like to run MyPy. Okay, but in some point you don't want, like if you are merging to master, maybe you want to check for vulnerabilities at that point, but not on every commit because you're still developing. So super useful, and surprisingly, it ran faster than each tool on its own.
Wow.
I mean,
that is super cool.
It takes some time. I mean, it's not a super fast because first of all, it installs all the required tools just in one bundle, and the execution is still the same execution for all the tools. But yeah, it really simplifies things. So high-ended.
Cool. Nice. Good recommendation. Out in the live stream, Paul Ansel has a question. Not sure if you know the answer. Is there a way to add a comment to your code, for example, #no prospector, to tell it that a given line is actually not a problem, similar to how Bandit would disable warnings with #nosec?
So Prospector is just a bundle. It's like behind the scene, it just executes the same tools. So you would use the same disable PyLint or disable PyCode style or no QA. So the rules there apply just to each tool differently.
Got it. Makes sense.
Cool.
All right, am I up next, Brian?
Yes.
I think so. So another topic on Rich. I feel like we're always talking about Rich now. Super fun. I actually just had Will McGugan, who I see out in the audience. Hey, Will, on Talk Python. So that was really fun. So here's the thing from Avi Pearl, not Avi Python, but we'll still accept it. Just kidding. That's just the last name. Thank you, Avi, for sending this over and let us know about it. So Kunyan Tran created this cool terminal-based visualizer for Pandas DataFrames. So she's into data science and stuff like that. And like many things that have to do with Rich in UI, just having a screen animation is really all you need to know whether or not this is useful for you. And so you can just go to the website that we'll link to the GitHub repo, and it's got an animated GIF right on the front there. Super nice. So just imagine you are in a Jupyter notebook and you went to a data frame, you said df.head or tail, something like that, and you get a little table that comes out. Well, here's one with animation and color and all that stuff as a rich table, the rich library, generating the table of the data frame right there. So if you're creating something in the terminal and you want a nice output for a data frame, this is pretty simple. The code that you got to write is super easy. So for example, you come up with a data frame somehow, and then you just say from rich data frame import prettify, and then just prettify your data frame, and that's it. Done. Yeah, it's cool, right? You can also apply it to just regular dictionaries and stuff like that. And you can control things like limit the number of rows that come back, how many columns will be shown in case there's a ton. You don't want it to fill the screen. Of course, you can transform your data frame, but if you just want a quick, like, hey, just show me the first few columns, it'll do that. You can either view the head or the tail effectively. If you're going to say, give me 20 columns, there's 2,000. Well, I think that by default, it shows the head, but you can also show it in reverse. You can clear the console so it just fills the screen, things like that. So even control the animation. So not a lot to do with this, but if it's useful to you, not a lot of gears and ways to use it, but I think if it's useful to you, you'll really find it interesting.
Yeah, all those pretty colors. I like it.
Yeah. I love the colors. So super cool.
So Rich has a ton of stuff in it, but I use the tables like all over the place because it's just the easiest and prettiest way to display a table right now in a CLI application. So
awesome.
Love them.
Love it. Raw Inta out in the live stream says, whoa, Rich for the win once again. Looks great for SSH session. Yes, it does. And I hadn't really even thought about it for that scenario, but yeah, it definitely does. Definitely. And Jared says to us, Brian and me, I can't thank you enough for all your podcasts. As great as they are, the video format is even better. Yeah, Jared, thanks for being here. We always love having people on the show. It gives us a little bit more interactive aspect for all the people listening afterwards.
Yeah.
With that, Brian, go for it.
So yeah, I'm gonna go back to 310 for now. So I'm excited. One of the things I'm excited about is the union types, like you said. For one of the things that was released is union types, so that you can do X or Y. The thing that I really like about this, one of the things, is the optional. So you can, if you've got, I don't have an example here, but if you've got a function that takes an integer, but it might default to none, you can now say that the type is int or none, and then assign it the default value of none. So it'd be int or none equal none. And it's really clean. One of the nice things about that is you don't have to import optional from typing. So that's really clean. But I was bummed because actually a lot of the projects I work on, I have to support more than just 310. I've got to support 3.7, 3.8.
What? You haven't already moved to 310? You guys are such laggards.
The stuff that it's my application. But
you've had 2 days. Come on.
if you're supporting Python packages, you want to support more than just one version of Python, right? A little bit. I mean, you don't have to,
No,
but
of course.
if you want to, and so then I was excited to see that Adam Johnson put out, and I want to shout out who told me about this. I lost it. Somebody else told me about this, so sorry. But Adam Johnson wrote an article about type hints, how to upgrade syntax with PyUpgrade. So Anthony Sotili wrote a PyUpgrade tool, and what it'll do is it does a lot of stuff. But one of the things it does is it changes this this union operator, or this for types, and it includes what does it include? The from future import annotations that will allow you to use this this type union types and none in everything back to Python 3.7. So
very nice.
Supposedly, I haven't tried it on 3.7, but that's the claim. So there's a nice article on how to upgrade your syntax.
This is a tool, like an automatic tool you just run.
Yeah, it's a PyUpgrade. So
very nice. Frederick out in the live stream says the union pipe really makes everything a lot less noisy and more readable. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you going to offer? What are you going to suggest?
The next topic came in.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. I actually wanted to.
I just a comment on that. I thought you were going to have a comment on that. The Brian Summit.
I actually have a comment because I really like the PyUpgrade stuff, because I kind of feel that lately we have. I enjoy type annotations, but like with each version we have like a little bit of change, and then you have to comply the previous one, and then like what I would love to see is like some kind of a convention on how to do type hinting correctly, because there are so many versions, and well, because I'm a bit lazy, I don't always use type annotations, but I know I should. And then I use tools like monkey type, and sometimes I annotate. So they just add type annotations during runtime. And then it's a kind of I kind of have some kind of a convention there, because I feel like type annotation, you can do it in so many ways.
Yeah, it's a little bit like string formatting.
Exactly, but eventually I think we can all agree that F strings is the way to go, right?
Yes.
But right now we're kind of in a wild west with type annotations, because we have those since I think 3.5, 3.3, I think. But they are evolving. Like each new Python version, you have something new, and then the old becomes obsolete or frowned upon, and then you shouldn't do it like that. But what I would like to see, maybe a tool such as PyUpgrade that would tell me, okay, this is the convention, this is how you should be doing your type hinting from now on.
It's a good idea. We saw you're doing the old way. Here's the new way. Do that.
Yeah. I'm confused, and I'm lazy, and I'm confused. I'm not entirely. It's not a built-in feature still. Like you're using type annotations. I see a lot of Pythonistas just it's fluent for them, and for me it's like, okay, I'll write my code, and then I'll start using some type hinting. And
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I think PyUpgrade is the trick. So it does do a lot of these, like the going from uppercase list to lowercase list, and switching away from optional and things like that. So
I may be running this later today. This is looking good.
So some kind of a type formatter. Just make it like it should be. That's what I would like to see. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Brian, you know what time it is?
Extra time.
Extra time. You got anything you want to put up there? Throw out for people?
Yeah, actually, I don't have any links for it, but I should have had links up. But I was, this is hard for me to believe, actually, but in like 2017, a long time ago, 2017, 2018, I submitted a defect to pytest, the pytest project, and then I also wrote up a test to describe the defect, but I didn't know how to fix it. So that was my first contribution to pytest, is adding test code. But this last week I had two pull requests, and they both got accepted and merged. So the
Awesome.
next version of pytest will actually have my code in it. So
super cool.
it's kind of fun.
Very cool. Hey, I just realized we skipped Yael's final thing. Darker.
Oh, right.
no.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, tell us about that
that's
before we
okay.
get to the rest of the extras.
That's fine.
I feel like
yeah,
you've got these cool ways to like bring together multiple tools. Instead of telling people about Bandit, you're like, here's how to use Bandit, all these things. Or instead of Black, here's how to like do all these different things.
Yeah. I kind of like combining things and then make it more general, because I mean the Python ecosystem is so rich. There are so many things. Yeah. So it's nice to bring some stuff together, bundled and easy to use. So Darker is something also I was recommended by a friend after describing a problem or my resentment even to Black formatter. I know it's not a popular take, and maybe I shouldn't say it, but until recently I was kind of. It's not that I don't enjoy Black formatting. I think it looks great, it's more readable, it's nice. But I had some major issues with myself and colleagues that get sometimes over enthusiastic. Like, okay, I start to write some code and I don't know, it's a bug fix or I'm adding some feature and I'm done. But then, yay, I want to make it Black because it's cool. And then I run Black on the model, or sometimes if I really want to, I'll run it on the entire package. And then I submit my PR, and my PR includes the single bug fix or the little line I've added for the functionality or the fixing. And then I have like some 100 changed files because I ran Black. Or even if it's in a model, like the whole model looks like it's brand new. And if I have to review such code, I would say, okay, where do I start? Where do I begin? Because I don't know
why are there so many changes, right?
Yeah, and it became a real issue because on one hand we had a lot of developers that was really like into Black. Let's make everything Black. Let's make everything beautiful. And on the other hand, we would get those huge PRs and like, okay, where do I start? Where do I even start? So we started restricting Black. We said at some point as a group we decided, okay, no more Black. But that was also very frustrating. And then I had some talks with a friend of mine and say, okay, you should use Darker. And the Darker is a really tiny, it's not a big package. It's very lightweight. And what it does, it takes a little bit more conservative approach. It doesn't say, okay, just Black everything and have a huge PR. It says, okay, you want to have to convert your code being beautiful and Black, but let's make it gradually. And then you eliminate this huge PR and this huge mess. Just change the stuff you need. Run Darker just on the file or even on the entire code base. And then it will format only the changes you made in the file. Okay, so here's, I think, let's see.
Yeah,
a
that's
nice
cool.
example here.
I love that it runs on the last Git changes.
Right. Exactly. It actually does. It's very simple. I can't believe no one thought of it before. It's like so simple because what it does, it just does git diff, gets the changes, and then just runs Black formatting on those changes. And then you have a normal looking PR with nice formatting. And yeah, you won't get the whole beautiful black all-in-ones. You'll make it, but eventually, I think it's more. I think it's better this way. And we started using it a couple of months ago, and I think it has a good progress. And we just integrated it into our pre-commit hooks. So it's kind of seamless. It's not that you need to remember running black. Of course, you can also integrate it in PyCharm or VS Code. I think even Vim for people who are fond of Vim and stuff. I think it has some kind of a plugin.
I don't know who would do that.
Yeah, I don't know. Who are those people? Anyways. But yeah, so it's simple. Yeah. It's really nice and made by, I hope I'll get the name right. It's Cahoila. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. I think this is great.
Yeah.
Paul out in the audience has an interesting bit of feedback. This would be super helpful if you're starting to enforce code standards on an already existent repo, which is most kind of code he works with. Right. So yeah.
If you're starting like new projects, so yeah, black it all the way. That's fine.
Yeah, I've heard recommendations. I've heard recommendations before to just have one commit that just does the black thing. But one of the problems with that is you lose sort of the history of when the file really was last modified. So if a file hasn't been touched in 2 years, it's kind of nice to leave it as not touched for 2 years, so that you can, kind of see the history. But
yeah,
for sure.
Because if you run black and on a 5-year-old code base, it would look like you did it all from the beginning.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you want to up your commit status, number of lines changed way more than the rest of the team, you can always do that.
Yeah, you could.
All right. I know, Yael, you have a couple of things that you want to give a shout out to at the end here as well. So let's just keep going with those.
Yeah, sure. So I have 2 things. The first one is actually a colleague of mine, and he's been writing a book, a very interesting book. A bit of a controversial book if you dive into it. What he basically says, object-oriented, it's good for some, but in general, when you deal with complex problems, object-oriented programming might even make stuff a lot more complicated in terms of debugging, in terms of separation of concerns. And then he presents some kind of a new way to deal with data and how we process data. So it's data-oriented programming. I have to admit, I read some of the chapters, not all. I didn't finish the book. It's also still work in progress, though most of it complete. And you don't have to agree on everything, but the whole approach is the combination of data-oriented programming with functional programming. I think there are some benefits to it, and some complex problems can be solved faster and easier and with less debugging strain. Like for me, like I have this rule of thumb that if I have to activate debugger over and over again to understand what the code does, instead of just reading the code, it means that something with the code is not 100% right. Okay, because the code should be readable. And I encountered those issues when working with very heavy object-oriented code bases, and like a lot of inheritance and multi-inheritance. And then I went to Django and they use mixins. And it is hard. It is hard to design. It is hard to, but mostly it is hard to read. And this approach, it's interesting. As I said, I'm not fully agree that object oriented should be gone from the world. It's not it's not my stand, but I think
some people
but
have
I
made that
think-
stand, but it still is around, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm not completely. But I think in some cases there are approaches that are much more lightweight and the whole thing with data versus code separation. I think it's nice. I think it's
Nice.
and it's kind of it kind of rewires your brain a bit after you read a chapter or two. Like
maybe it's one of those things like functional programming. You don't necessarily do it all the time, but you read it and it gives you a different perspective, even if you don't totally adopt it.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And a little bit self-promotion here. So a few months ago, I released my first open source project. Cornell was actually covered by Brian, I think 2 months ago. Yeah, so I just wanted to do a little shout out to all developers out there who are looking to contribute to a little but nice, with a very nice documentation project. It's only the beginning. What it does is it's actually a record and replay server for mock. It's a mock server that records real data and then can be used as part of the CI and for purposes for end-to-end testing, because like if you have some kind of an entry point that starts a cascade of events, including celery or whatever, and just eventually you reach the part when you go out and send an HTTP request. So here Cornell comes in handy. We use it quite a lot in my previous company, and I'm trying to now integrate it in my current workplace, and I think it has some potential.
Very cool.
And it's not very mature, so I would love, like, really, if someone wants to contribute even a typo or documentation or whatever, we really warmly welcome all contributions. So
yeah, that's great. Brian asked me on that episode where I thought the name came from, and I thought Chris Cornell from Soundgarden and all that. Is that correct? Black Hole Sun and all those things?
Well, you see the face. What the face reminds you of.
Yeah, it does now. I don't think I paid attention to that before, but yeah, now that I see it, I'm more confident in my answer.
Yeah, you were correct. Indeed.
Right on. All right. Well, I got a few more extras to share with the world. Let's see. I just literally at midnight last night released a new course, HTMX plus Flask, modern web apps hold the JavaScript. So this is a 3-hour course that dives into cool ways of putting HTMX and Flask together. And it also brings together some of the other things we've talked about on the podcast before. Like when I was creating this course, I didn't really like the way that you would reuse HTML, have a lot of duplication and other crummy stuff. So I created the Jinja partials and Chameleon partials projects to make this code better. But anyone who uses HTMX with Jinja or Chameleon should definitely check those out. That's covered in the course. There's also just links to it. Course does cost money, but you can go and get the GitHub repo and check out the stuff there. So that's really cool. We built a really fun little app there and add a bunch of HTMX things to it. So link in the show notes. Check that out. Auto optional, got an update from Dan. So Brian, did you cover this? I covered this last time, I think. But the update is, we were talking about so it'll go and do auto optional stuff where if you say something is like x:\int equals none as a default value, it goes, no, that doesn't make sense. So it'll create an optional of int automatically and correct that typing. But we made the comment, Brian, I think maybe you did, I can't remember who, but said, it'd be really cool if we could use the pipe syntax that we just talked about earlier. So auto optional has been updated to create x pipe none instead of optional of x, which is really cool. Yeah. Sweet. I love it. I love how the podcast helps bring some of this feedback to the world.
Change the world.
That's right. We have made a dent in the universe, Brian, and it is x pipe none. Okay. Coverage, Ned Batchelder just released coverage on Monday. So coverage 6,
Yeah.
which is a major reason. Python 2 has been expelled from coverage, which is all good. And third-party packages are automatically ignored, which could be a big change for some people. All right, a bunch of other stuff. You can check it out if you care a lot. Django 3.2.8 is out with a couple of bug fixes about read-only fields and admin and some regression bug going on. So check that out as well.
Sweet.
Yep. Well, I guess this might be a time for a joke. Shall we finish it with a joke?
Yes.
As we often do.
Yeah.
All right. Going back to the very reliable Geek and Poke here, we have paired CAPTCHA, as in reCAPTCHA, the little pop up and you get the different panels. You got to say like, click all of the crosswalks or click all of the dogs or whatever. All right, Brian. Let's do this together like last time. I'll do the first one, the woman developer or just computer user trying to get through this. So is this a traffic light or just a light?
No idea. I guess I would guess a traffic light.
Nope. Does the gray pixel in the corner also belong to the street sign? And on it goes. A sad statement on our digital existence.
There's been some where I'm stumped. I'm like, I don't know.
I know.
Next question, please.
Sometimes
Exactly.
I
am not
3 times in a row. It's so embarrassing. Am I a machine?
I couldn't find all the mountains. Yeah, the worst is when you find all the stuff correctly, then it refreshes and go find some more of them. You're like, I just found them all. Why are you doing this to me?
You seem like you like to find traffic lights. Here, have some more.
You looked bored. We got some more lights for you. All right. Well, that's
cool.
the joke I brought for you all.
Well, thanks. And I appreciate you finding them. That's cool. So thanks a lot, everybody. And we'll wrap it up for today. And thanks everybody on the stream for joining us. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Yael, thank you especially for being here.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thank you.